Peace, family. My name is Vicki Dillard for African Diaspora News Channel. Thank you so much for tuning in, family. Let me tell you something. I have discussed this on my personal channel at vickydillard.tv. I have discussed this on other social media platforms, directly and indirectly related matters to the recent release of the Epstein files. Yes, and one of the things I discussed specifically with the failed, old, useless, irrelevant, dead black media is their connection to established white systems, institutions, and political parties, specifically like the Democrat Party. Why do we emphasize that here? Because majority of our people vote for Democrats. And when you're voting for a party to do something for you and they don't, that party has to have more accountability than the party that you don't vote for mostly. You all understand that. So let's not ask crazy and irrelevant and dumb questions about why we're getting Democrats this everlasting work when so many of our people voted for them historically over the years. And we're trying to show that neither party means us any good. And that this notion that only voting has to do with the well being and the outcomes of your life is a fallacy. And the reason, in my estimation, that they continue to keep both of these parties going so that it will give the illusion that there's an actual difference between the two, major that is, to keep you participating in the system of voting one for the other. At the end of the day, as it relates to matters, the things that matters most or should matter most for you, there's no change. So what does that tell you? With that in mind, I want to talk about the Congressional Black Caucus. I want to remind some of you of some things that I discussed for the past few years, 2.5-ish or so years, about something that the Congressional Black Caucus did in 2023. This headline, as you can see, says Netanyahu welcomes Black Democratic Congress members as he angles for White House invite. You see members of the Congressional Black Caucus there pictured with Benjamin Netanyahu. And the article says how he met with 10 members of the Congressional Black Caucus as he tries to improve his standing with the Biden administration among Democrats. The meeting Sunday in Jerusalem was part of a visit sponsored in part by the American Israel Education Foundation. Y'all listen, an affiliate of American Israel Public Affairs Committee. What does American Israel Public Affairs Committee stand for, family? It stands for AIPAC. Keep that in mind. It came as some U.S. Democrats are keeping their distance from Netanyahu because his government's efforts to sap the power of Israel's judiciary. It talks about members that were there, but it says how from the outset of the meeting, Netanyahu emphasized his commitment to bipartisan U.S. support for Israel. It's an opportunity to cement our relationship, which is always based on bipartisan relationship between Israel and both sides of the House and both sides of the Senate. He said, it's very important for us, and I view this meeting as an important building block in this relationship. It says that the Israeli prime minister has so far failed to secure a White House meeting with President Joe Biden, who made it clear his unhappiness with Netanyahu's far-right government and plans to overhaul Israel's court system. The White House has said the two leaders will encounter each other later this month when both attend the UN General Assembly, but has studiously avoided confirming claims by Netanyahu's officials that there will be a White House meeting. It talks about how Netanyahu has been dogged for years by suspicions among Democrats that he favors Republicans, and it goes on to talk about some other irrelevant things. Now, why am I bringing that up? I'm bringing that up to tell you that shortly after I found this out, I have been discussing it and covering it on different platforms. Why? Because 1 month before October 7th, the Democrat, specifically, I should say, the Congressional Black Caucus flew their hips over there to Jerusalem at a time when even Joe Biden himself would not meet with Netanyahu, and at a time when Democrats, and as quietly as it's kept, some of even the Republicans were keeping their distance. Why? Because they were trying to put pressure on Netanyahu, because They wanted him to pull back from certain things because it would have exposed the United States' dirty hand there. And because the Netanyahu was doing so much stuff going on over there, he was causing too much attention. He wouldn't do that. He couldn't get a meeting with them. So guess what little raggedy, little terrible, little useless group decided to be the test dummies for him? You got that right, the CBC. Instead of them pushing and standing on foundational Black American and Black American business with reparations, with tangibles, with justice, they fly their hips over there and get themselves involved in a government at the time where even some of our own government leaders were trying to put pressure on them. Now, what the CBC has not done they haven't released a comprehensive transcript of exactly what they were discussing. I want to know how in the world did they meet with him a month before October 7th, and lo and behold, you see what happened after that. I want to know something else. You see where an AIPAC affiliate group is the one that sponsored and paid for them to go there and set all this up, ostensibly, right? As I just read. Well, guess what else? When we look in the Epstein files, guess whose name comes up? Guess who's mentioned? Their interest directly or indirectly? AIPAC. Well, guess what? In case you've forgotten, if you look at this headline, this is from Politico from a few years ago that talks about how new emails show Donna Brazile, that's the Black Democratic darling. It says that she may have had exact wording of proposed town hall question before CNN. The article talks about how a new email obtained by Politico is shedding more light on the mystery of whether and how interim DNC chair Donna Brazile may have obtained the text of a proposed question from a town hall between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders in advance and possibly shared it with the Clinton campaign. Y'all listening? And now CNN, who co-hosted the town hall with cable network TV1, is pointing the fingers at its media partner for what appears to be a breach of the traditional secrecy surrounding the questions for such events. The email obtained by Politico was written by town hall co-moderator Roland Martin on the day of the town hall to CNN producers. It shows him using word for word the language of a question that Brazile appeared to have sent to the Clinton campaign a day earlier. Y'all ready for this? Hold your seats. That email from Brazile to the campaign was included in yesterday's release of hacked emails by WikiLeaks of Clinton campaign chair John Podesta. Who is John Podesta, family? John Podesta, as it relates to the WikiLeaks release way back, was it around 2016-ish time frame. Under WikiLeaks, it says a WikiLeaks series on deals involving Hillary Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta. Mr. Podesta is a long-term associate of the Clintons and was President Bill Clinton's chief of staff from 1998 until 2001. Mr. Podesta also owns the Podesta Group with his brother Tony, a major lobbying firm, and is the chair of the Center for American Progress, known as CAP, a Washington, D.C. based think tank. Guess whose name comes up in the Epstein file after already being released and leaked in the WikiLeaks file years and years ago for the Pizzagate? That little nasty conspiracy that they tried to tell you wasn't real. Many references to pizza. And guess whose name came up at least one time in the Epstein stuff? John Podesta's name appears. They claim in this, when you pull it up, they claim just in passing in a single document in the newly released files. It says where he's mentioned in a non-criminal context related to the original Pizzagate's allegations. Family. The AIPACs interests and persons are involved in the Epstein files. John Podesta, who was what again? Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman and a long-term associate of the Clintons, and was President Bill Clinton's chief of staff from 1998 to 2001. He is accused of some of the most egregious and nasty and dirty little stanky things related to the whole notion of Pizzagate that they said was a fraud. AIPAC is connected to that. AIPAC sponsored the Congressional Black Caucus. The Congressional Black Caucus just so happened to have been over there in Israel when nobody else was going to go a month before October 7th. What did they know? What didn't they know? And who else is helping to cover up information related to the Epstein files that members of the Congressional Black Caucus knew about in advance? How many of you all know that a lot of the folks that have come against voices like mine are the very ones that have very deep ties with Washington, D.C., and they certainly knew about or are believed to have known about credible information, credible allegation, and credible insight about what may or may not have been going on as it relates to that. And did any member of the CBC file a complaint? Did any member of the CBC demand an investigation? Let me tell y'all something. Just because a group or an organization might try to suppress your efforts for accountability does not mean that by policy and in some instances by law, you have a responsibility to still do something about it. With the wide-ranging persons that are involved and issues that are involved in the files, do you all understand that it is possible? I say it is possible that because there are international cross issues and people and interests that are involved in those files, is it possible because of the CBC's connections to political parties, to the White House, and some have speculated to certain political forces to the Epstein stuff, which members of the CBC reported it and demanded hearings and demanded other such things. We know they're not pushing reparations for Black Americans. We know that they're not effectively doing our bidding, but they're willing to do the bidding of foreign groups over us. So yes, we are hearing more and more calls from Black Americans that are demanding that the Congressional Black Caucus be held accountable and be investigated about what they may or may not have known. And don't you all think it's strange that you're not seeing strong denouncements of the things that are being brought about in this? Not those that's playing politics with it by saying Trump's name is in it. We know that, and he needs to be held fully accountable. But there are a whole lot of other Democrats' names in it. And what is interesting is that before Trump took office, do you all understand that a lot of these files were accessible to Democrats and they were not demanding that they be released? And is it because their Democrat buddies' names were equally all throughout these things? So yes, because of the transnational and the possible international implications that might be at stake here, I believe that the Congressional Black Caucus may just find themselves, if not under investigation here in the United States, perhaps by one of these international bodies like the ICJ, and who knows, even the ICC. And just like Roland's name, that the average person is not talking enough about, came up in the WikiLeaks file, and his name was directly connected to nasty, dirty, little sick, twisted, vile, barbaric, and uncivilized allegations from Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman and former President Clinton's former chief of staff. Roland's name came up in the WikiLeaks emails related to Podesta and Hillary Clinton's campaign. So yes, if you're not going to do our bidding, and instead you're going to do the bidding of the Democrat Party in foreign nations, Hell to the yeah, you need to be looked into, because that means that you're an enemy of ours. You're using the name Black in your Black Congressional caucus groups, and you're doing the bidding for everybody but us. So hell yeah, you need to be looked into. I can't wait to see what y'all have to say about it. Of course, there's so much more that I can't get into now, but be sure to connect with me at my website at VickiPlanet.com. I talk about all kinds of yummy things, deep things, geopolitical things, national things, and spiritual things in my spiritual school and my offline courses. You can learn more about me at VickiPlanet.com. That's my website. That's VickiPlanet.com. I can't wait to see you again.